Instacredibility.com Trust Triggers Series. Trust Trigger Number 1, Unleashing the Power of Affinity. Here is an open secret. People are more likely to trust people who are similar to them. These people don't have to look exactly like them, but they should feel enough commonality that they are more than willing to give certain strangers the benefit of the doubt. It's as if your customers have their guards up most of the time. It's hard to convince them. It's hard to even get their attention. But because of affinity, they're willing to let all that go and hear you out. That's how powerful affinity is. Do not overlook this shortcut. A lot of small businesses assume that just because they specialize in a certain part of town and know enough people in their neck of the woods, they've got affinity taken care of. No wonder they struggle. You have to start with the basics. Don't take them for granted. The mechanisms of affinity. The first step to establishing a sense of affinity with your target customers is to demonstrate that you get them. You have to show that you are familiar with their problems. If you own a plumbing company, you have to show that you know enough about their problem for them to consider you. Now, keep in mind that this fact alone doesn't close the deal with them. They're not convinced entirely just because they know that you are aware of their problem and are familiar with the solutions to their issues. This is the bare minimum. When your customers contact you, or when you send out marketing messages, familiarity must be front and center. This means you should list out the most common problems your past customers have had. This puts you in the ballpark. This doesn't close the deal yet, but at least your target customers know that you are familiar enough with their problems. Be specific. Now that you have sent out messages or you've had contact with a customer regarding problems that they have, a key step in building affinity involves specifying the answer that you offer to solve their problem. Be more specific and avoid speaking in general terms. When somebody calls you with a roofing problem, for example, you can't just talk about generalities about roofing or hypotheticals. They're going to hang up on you. You have to focus on the specifics of their issue. The way to build affinity in this context is to ask questions and then tailor your response to the specific answers they give you. This way, you're not talking about a generalized problem, or you're not talking about a theory that can apply to people who experience the same general issues that they're going through. Instead, they feel that you're talking about them. The answer that you provide is specific, but you don't have to mention pricing at this point. They want to hear that you truly understand them and that the answer that you propose is specific to them. You have to signal your familiarity with their specific problem, which brings up the third point of affinity building. Come up with specific past examples. This gets a little tricky. A lot of the times, your customer will suffer from a problem that you haven't specifically dealt with in the past. At least you have not grappled with an identical problem. But that shouldn't matter. When you have enough of the specifics of their challenges, you should come up with past examples that are similar enough to their issues. Talk about how you dealt with those. When you do this, you signal to them your familiarity with their problem and your ability to competently fix those problems. How would they know? You've dealt with it in the past. You've solved something that is similar enough. For most customers, this is good enough. The bottom line, with triggering trust through affinity. When you go through the steps above, both in the framing of your book or how you interact with prospective customers who call your business, one thing should be clear. The attention should be on them. It's not about what you're about, how much people respect you, how well established your business is, or how many customers you serve year after year. None of that matters. For affinity to seep through and invigorate your brand, your attention should be on the customer. It should be all about them. This is how you build affinity. The prospect walks away with the understanding that you truly get them. Remember, in sales, it's all about establishing a mental and emotional experience that sets you apart from your competition. If you only look at your prospective customer as just a series of problems that are reducible into numbers that you can then crank over, chances are your customers are going to keep looking elsewhere, to your competitors. What they're looking for is a company that will look at them as human beings. One of the easiest and most powerful ways to do this is to demonstrate that you truly understand and that their situation is unique enough to warrant your specific attention. If you're able to communicate this message on many levels, I'm talking about emotional, psychological, and logical. You stand out from the competition. Your prospective client is more likely to trust you. But at this point, you're still far away from a sale. While Affinity is very powerful, on its own, it's not enough. Contact instacredibility.com today to help you get started in turning your local business expertise into a solid brand your prospects would trust and buy from again and again.